Guys, welcome to MelodyMocktail. As you guys know, a lot of H1-B questions and a lot of H1-B queries we are receiving. So we brought in Mr. John Velie, who is the CEO and founder of John Velie Law Group and also Online Visas AI. So he's with us. He's gonna address a lot of questions for us today. So make sure you pay attention. Here you go. Hi, John.
Hi, Ravi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, man. It's great to be at this expo.
Yeah. Yes. How is West Coast? How is California?
I'm loving it, man. I'm wearing my Cal thing today. I played rugby at Cal 35 years ago.
Wow.
We won a national championship, and our guys are in the playoffs today.
Nice.
So I'm going to go up there and watch them.
Wow.
Should be
So
fun.
you have a lot of plans after this?
I'm going to go watch some rugby, and then I'm going to come back down to the IT Serve thing tonight and,
Awesome.
hang out with these great
Thank you for
CEOs.
giving some time for us in your hectic schedule.
Of course.
And I know your time is valuable. I don't want to take a lot of time.
Okay.
But there are a lot of questions from the people, especially from the students.
Right.
Let's say we personally received a question.
Okay.
A student who recently came for masters.
Okay.
Okay. He filed his H1-B
Okay.
with an employer.
Okay.
He's in his first semester
Okay.
and he filed his H1-B. It got picked up.
Great.
Now we received a question like, do I need to go with H1-B or do I need to continue my studies? So what are his possibilities to get approval?
I had a good friend named David Kelso, and he called it the Kelso Compromise. That's where you do everything, right? So you can do both, right? This is fantastic. I mean, this is great news. There's no negative here, right? So the way the H1B works is it's based on having a bachelor's degree, not a master's degree. The requirement's the bachelor's degree. So if he got picked up in the CAP, he has who has a bachelor's degree, so he would have to do a job that requires that bachelor's degree, right?
Okay.
But if the company that registered for him has a job that is based on the degree that he has, then he can get that H1B.
Wow.
Now the cool thing is, you can go to school while you're on H1B.
You can go to school on H1-B too?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. So
this
he
is
would just change his status from the F1 to the H1B, and that would be with the filing of the H1B.
Right.
He needs to file it by the end of the deadline, so he has until the end of June, right? And so the real question is the company real and is the job real?
Got
He
you.
definitely has the background if he has that. Now, because he's a foreign student, he'll have to have his degree evaluated to be equivalent of a U.S. degree, but that's a pretty easy process. And there are people that do that every day.
Wow. So it's like doable job.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now I have a question from employer perspective.
Okay.
I know an employer. He's very new. He
Right.
recently started his company.
Right.
He filed some H1-B petitions.
Great.
And they got picked up more than 10.
Right.
Okay. What are the things he need to do prior to filing the H1-B petitions to get 100% approvals?
Yeah, Robbie, that's a great question. We see a lot of that, right? And that there's a demand for the H1B because so many people need it, and there's 500,000 people applying for 65,000. So we've seen a cottage industry of companies saying, "I'll get your H1B for you." Well, some of them, once they get the H1B, it's like a dog chasing a car. Now what do I do? Right? Well, there's certain do's and don'ts, right? And so what you really need to have in best practices to have a sustainable a sustainable company in which the H1B is going to be approved are a number of things. Number one, you have to have a facility. You can't work out of your house, and you really shouldn't even do a Regis or office share. We represent a lot of companies being investigated. They look at that. You need to have an office, and it needs to have people in there, right? So the model where I've got a job someplace else, and I'll own this company, and I won't go there, and then I'm just going to send my resources out. That's a really, really tough model, right? So get your own facility, right?
Office space.
Yeah, office space. Now the office space has to be big enough for all the people that are going to work there, right? And they'll do that. So if you get these one-room office spaces and you got 10 employees, and the LCA says that's where they're going to work, they're going to go. Where are they going to sit? Right? So that's the problem. So there's two options, right? So the facility needs to be big enough for all the employees, and that means they can have computers. Now, they can work remotely if they're within the same MSA, but it's really tough to say they're going to work remotely and have an address for that if they're still in India.
Understood.
Right? Now, if they're transferring over, that's a little bit easier. So then there's two options. Like one is they can work at the project site. So you have the third party's location. We're going to put them there. That's fine. If you're going to say that they're going to work at your site, they have to have work. So what does that work? Now, if that works an internal project, it really has to be real, right? You can't just say, here's my project plan.
Right.
They'll nail that, right? So you have to go through. It's like, okay, here's our sprint details of what we've built and what we're building. Now, we can start building that in India, right? The back office there or whatever, that's all fine. We're going to move it over, we're going to move our people over, but you need to have like wireframes. You need to have screenshots, some code samplings. You need to have looked at the market share. No one's going to believe you're going to bring 10 people over at an average 100,000 salary, which is $1 million, and then have a project that you're not going to sell or that you haven't thought about it, right? So internal projects have to be real. So you have internal projects, external projects, real work, okay? Then you have to have employees.
Right.
That it is a complete no-no on your I-129 when you put number of employees to have 0. Really, I think the number's 5. So what could that be? So you could get some OPTs, you could get an HR director, you could get sort of a secretary, sort of like an office manager, and you get salespeople.
Gotcha.
Here's where I think people are making a mistake.
Yeah.
They think getting the people is the issue.
Right.
That's not the issue. Getting the projects.
Right.
Have salespeople to go get projects for you.
Right.
Right. If you have projects, people will come.
Understood.
If you have people, now you're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to file this?
Understood.
Right. So those are the elements, right? Have an office, have 5 employees, have sufficient workspace, and have work.
Got you.
All that before you file the H1-B.
That's how it works.
Now, if they can't get there,
Right.
can we talk about that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So look, we've seen these guys, right? We've seen them where they've come in and they go, I've got a number of H1Bs. I have no employees. I just opened my company. I have no revenues, and I have no work. You can't get that approved, right? So what do? So what I think you do is you sell part of your company and you sell it to somebody that has a facility or will support you to rent a facility. If you don't have the money yourself, you have an asset here. You've got these people that want to come here, want to work for you. So you go to somebody else and say, hey, let's go into business together. Right? Can I get enough space to put these guys? Can we have enough money to hire these people, pay this rent, have a real deal, right? That's what I think you need to do. And you have to have all that really in place before you file the H1Bs.
Gotcha.
That's the scenario that I think those folks can do.
Okay.
And groups like IT Serve who are here, that these guys have been doing this for a long time. There's a lot of people, and I think if they come through you, Robbie, or they want to talk to us, we might be able to introduce us to some people that could help them get to where they want to go. Right? And no guarantees with that. That's a business relationships, but it's meeting the right people, having the right partners. And
So what I understood is like either they have to meet all the specified criteria. If not, they can sell the part of the company to the already well-established company. Then they're gonna take over their process. Or else they can completely sell off the company, including the employees, to that big company, so that they can file and they can take care of it.
You could do it that way, right? There's anywhere in the middle of there, right? It's the whole thing is make it real, right? You know, you have to have a real company with real work that people can work at, right? And so how do you get there from I've got 10 H1Bs and just an idea?
Understood.
Right? That's the key. So there's a few ways to get there, but yeah, you got the essence.
Got it. Awesome. So, and again, jumping back to students and employees, like let's say there are some people who filed H1B petitions with multiple employers, with multiple offer letters. Let's say there are some people literally filed 10 to 15, out of it, 10 H1Bs got picked up.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
You know, it's such a broken system, and the sad thing about that is 9 other people that didn't get picked up because somebody got 10. But yeah, so here's what you need to consider. Just going back to what I just thought about, is the employer that has your H1B going to be sufficient enough to get it approved? Right? Your issue is, do you have a degree? It's very simple. You know, if you have the right degree and you're working in the right job and they're going to pay you the prevailing wage, part about you as the employee is done. Now it's like, is this a real company? Can it sufficiently do this? Right? So the first thing you want to ask is, are these companies real? Right?
So the question is like, they have 10 employers, okay, with H1B picked up in lottery. This guy is in confusion with whom he have to go. So how do he gonna vet the companies? Like, which is good for him.
So now here's the thing. they don't have to withdraw anything, right? You can just not do it. So your
Okay.
choice is whether to file for your H1B or not file for the H1B. The company is obligated to file for you,
Right.
but if you tell the company no thank you, then the company doesn't have to file for you, right? You can have more than one company file for you,
Got you.
right? And go with the one you want.
Understood.
What I would suggest is making sure to not go with any that you can't get the H1B on,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it's going to be a headache. You could
Right.
get it revoked.
Mhm.
They may approve it initially, then they go investigate it, and then they revoke it. Now you're out of status.
Right.
All sorts of bad things can happen.
Right.
But if you get the H1B,
Mhm.
you can now move it to another company also. So the H1B has a portability to it
Mhm.
that other visas don't. And what that means is that you can start working for another company as soon as the receipt notice comes in, not the approval, right?
That's right.
So getting the H1B is key.
Mhm.
But I would, go with the ones that you really want to
Mhm.
work for, and it should be one, right?
Right.
But because that's hard on the company too, they could hire somebody else. There's expenses for lawyers, so I would the good news is you got some options.
Right.
Pick the best option, go with it.
Right. Like, how do we vet it? Like, can we get to see the company's financials, or else any other information that we can
I
feel
don't think,
like
I
it's
don't
reliable?
think a company is going to share their financials, right?
Right.
I represent about 150 staffing companies.
Wow.
They're very they're just not going to do that.
Right.
However,
Mhm.
having a heart to heart with the company to find out what they're all about is one thing. But also do your own research. I mean, if this company's been around for a while,
How many years?
it's going to have a website. It's probably going to have some Glassdoor.
Right.
That's a website that talks about companies.
Right.
Things like that will give you some background. Find out who they are. See if you how many employees they have. If you know anybody, talk to employees if you can. But do your own due diligence. This is a place I want to work, right? And that's the funny thing about this H1B business.
Right.
If you were going to interview for a company and it didn't have the H1B, you would know all about them.
Understood.
Right.
Understood.
And what we have in some of these situations is I need an H1B so bad. I'll have anybody try to hire me. Well, that's not really the way people do jobs, is
Understood.
it? You want to go in a good place that you're going to work and enjoy your life.
Got you. It's a fair, straightforward answer. And
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
And one more question. America is like land of dreams.
Yeah.
A dream country. Like, everybody wanted to become an entrepreneur.
Sure.
So there are many people like us who wanted to start our own business.
Of course.
And we would like to get a green card and citizenship as soon as possible.
Of course.
What are our possibilities
Yeah.
apart from our employer? Let's say my employer filed it in EB3 or EB2 case, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
What are my options to get it in faster? To get it faster.
Right now, I think the fastest way through employment, or through the EB category, the employment-based category, for H1Bs is probably the EB5 right now.
EB5?
Yeah, the EB5.
Okay.
Like a lot of people don't think about the EB5. The EB5 kind of it's really slowed down from about 2017. There was some litigation around it, and people quit doing it. India never really bid on it the way China did.
Right.
But it is the EB5 for Indians right now is really, really hot topic, and let me tell you why. Not all EB5s are current, but target employment areas, those are either high unemployment or rural projects in regional centers are hot, and here's why. And of those, the rurals have priority processing, meaning you can probably get the full green card within a year. But here's the best part. Okay, so if you're on a non-immigrant visa, which includes a student visa, right, includes an H1B, even includes a visitor visa, right? If you come over to visit or even investigate whether you want to invest in the United States, if you file the rural regional center EB5, you can do that concurrently with your adjustment of status application.
Okay.
Right? You can't do that in EB2 and EB3. You have to wait 12 to 15 years.
Yes.
Right? That's what you guys are on, and many are, right?
Yeah.
On an H1B, I'm waiting for my green card.
Right.
And so the EB5 rural target employment area regional projects, regional center projects are concurrent. So what that means is you make the investment, you have to do that. These are $800,000 investments with additional fees, or attorney fees, or regional center fees, those sorts of things. you make that investment, but and then while you file your adjustment status, your application also includes a work authorization and travel permit. That work authorization will probably issue between 6 and 8 months.
Wow.
So if you have a work authorization and you're on an H1-B, you can continue to work on your H1-B, but you can lawfully do anything else.
Any other job?
Any other job,
Wow.
which includes opening your own company.
Awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Okay.
So yeah, that is really interesting. I'm on my way over to India to talk about it. We opened a new office in Hyderabad.
You did?
Jubilee
Oh,
Hills.
nice.
Yeah, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We have 21 people there. I'm really excited to go over in June, and we're going to be meeting with a lot of folks on
that's awesome.
the EB5 then. But I think there's a whole market of people that are stuck on H2Bs with I-140s approved, waiting decades to become entrepreneurs.
Right.
You know, you should be able to be an entrepreneur in your 20s if you want to be.
Right.
You shouldn't have to wait till your mid 30s, right? And so I think that's the deal. Now, 800,000 is a lot of money, but here's how the regional centers are doing it, right? So some of them have tranches of payment, meaning you can pay a down payment and payment plans out. And now this new regulation that came out, it's 1 year old. One year ago.
1 year old regulation.
1 year old regulations, what changed everything, and that's allowing the repayment faster. Right? So some of them are repaying in as fast as 2 years. They're not even waiting for the conditions to be removed, right? So this means you get your money back. So it's they're negotiable this way. How much is the regional center fee? How much do I have to pay of the $800,000 down in the payment plans? What's the interest rate I get on it? Right? And how fast do I get it back? So what we do that's a little different than other immigration attorneys that are stuck to a regional center, right? Like here's my regional center. That only allows you to have analysis of one, right? So what we do is we're not tied to any regional center, and we'll introduce you to a couple, or you can do your own research and look at it, and we'll help you understand what are they asking, right? And those sort of things. So there's a number of good regional centers out there right now. The things to think about on it are how long have they been a regional center? What's the project? Who's involved in the project? Are they good? Have they had success?
So project in the sense it's a business. What is a business? What kind of business it is?
Yeah.
And
who runs it?
You
want to do due diligence
investing
on that.
in it.
100%.
Okay. So my another question. You said 800,000 plus regional center fees and attorney fees.
Yeah.
How do we bring the money? Let's say I don't have that much money.
Right.
But I have properties.
Right.
So what kind of fund does the government recognize as an investment?
It's an excellent question. So here's what you can kind of do. So the biggest point of contention or analysis in EB5 from the person is what's called source of funds. Where did you get the money? So obviously if you've worked your whole life and you just happen to have 800,000 in your checking account like you and I do, right? Then you just write a check, right? But we don't, right? And most people don't. So like, where do I get that money? Well, you can borrow it, right? But it can't be attached to the company you're investing in, right? So if you're trying to do your own company, I'm going to borrow it and you're going to attack my assets. That won't work, right? And this wouldn't be your own company anyway. So you have to have assets, right? So those assets can be anywhere that a lender would want to secure it, right? So it could be in India, right? It could be in America. And home values are pretty good. Now it doesn't mean you have 800,000 of equity in it, but you can borrow that money and then attach to something else that's secured by and then invest in it. It has to be secured by something. Another thing is it can be loaned to you from a family member as long as there's really a loan, right? So that it needs to have an agreement and it needs to have a payment schedule, and you need to abide by the payment schedule. So that's where, in India, everybody has uncles, right? But they're not really uncles by law, right? They're friends of the family, and they're good people. And USCIS isn't going to allow, the uncle to just give you money. They're like, how does that make any sense, right? Now, even though that's very common in this wonderful community of people helping each other out, they do it all the time. But immigration they question that. Why would this unrelated person give this money to somebody else, right? And so that won't work.
So it should be immediate family members.
Immediate family members can give it. Or it's called gifting. Right? So gifting from, father to daughter or grandfather to grandson, all those things work, but not uncles, right? Not even real uncles, right? And definitely not, friend uncles. So the friend uncles or the real uncles or somebody else could enter into a loan.
Understood.
Right, as long as it was really documented correctly.
Okay, got it. So there are ways to succeed in this path of EB5.
Right.
It's not only worrying about the funds, but we have different kinds of ways to get that fund in a legal way, and we can proceed further.
Absolutely.
That's what you say. And we can secure that green card in less than any year, which is amazing.
It is amazing, and that's really a good move, and it's really one of the few green cards that don't have a priority date. Now even EB1s have a short priority date. That was current up until last year, and then now it's 10 months.
Gotcha.
But that's still not too long. It's much better than EB2s and 3s, right?
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And I have one last question. I don't want to take any more time from you. So there is another category, IEP.
Yes.
How does IEP work?
So, the IEP was invented to be similar to the non-immigrant visa for the EB2 national interest waiver, right? They thought this wasn't getting used enough. It was invented in the last days of Obama. It was killed by Trump, and it was resurfaced under Biden. The IEP stands for International Entrepreneur Parole, right? Do you know what the difference of a parole and a visa is? No. Interesting question. No, I don't think anybody does. That's why I'm asking. Yeah. But a visa is established by the regulations, under Congress, where a parole is invented by a president. Right? And so because it's invented by a president, it can be killed by a president, right? And that's exactly what happened. So we're in the Biden administration right now. It's good. Everybody likes it. If Biden's reelected, it's going to be good. If Trump's reelected, probably wouldn't be. If Trump comes in, right? But it's there, and it's wonderful. And here's what it is, right? So this is if you're a young entrepreneur or any age, doesn't matter, and you can raise money from a U.S. investment source. That's how it works, right? So it's about 267,000. Okay. And these are thresholds. It can be more, obviously, right? But they want it to. It's not 100 grand. It's not 50 grand.
It's like minimum.
It's a minimum, right? It used to be 250, and they ratcheted it up by a strange percentage. So that's why it's a weird number. 267,000. The investor has to be American, right? It can be a company or an individual, but if it's a company, it has to be owned by an American and they have to show their passport. Okay. Now, that investor has to be experienced. What does that mean? It means two other startups. It says startups, but I think that can be any company. Two other startups that they've invested in the last 5 years for a cumulative minimum amount of 600 and some about 1,000, right? So there's a barrier to what they've done. Now, here's what makes these tough, right? Or tricky. And they're not tough, they're just tricky. Is that we have to have proof that they invested in these companies. So that's going to be the loan documents or the convertible note or the investment.
A K1 or something.
Yeah, well that's a tax, but I mean the actual document shows I invested. And we'd have to watch the money that got invested into it, and then the company would have to prove two things. Did it create sufficient jobs? Did it create sufficient money? So it's only 5 jobs. But then now here's this company that's not part of this equation having to give their payroll records. Right? And then the other is revenue. So it's a little bit over 150,000 per year. So then they'd have to show their taxes, right? So the tricky part is getting that information. But we've got a number of them in right now. There's no premium processing on them. They take about a year themselves. And so it's a non-immigrant version, but here's what's really visa. But here's what's really cool about it. 3 people can get it.
3 people can get H1-B.
No, the IEP.
I mean green card.
The IEP
green card.
Well, it's not a green card. It's like a visa.
It's like a visa.
It's a non-immigrant. It's a non-immigrant thing. A status, right? So 3 people can get IEPs under the same investment. Right. That you got your CEO, your CTO, your COO. Three folks, right?
So what kind of visa regulations does it have for IEP?
Well, it's like a visa. It's just called a parole, but it's good for. There's a 2.5 year period, and then you can get another 2.5 year period. So it's 5 years, unlike the H1-B 6. So I like to compare it to the H1-B. Here's the distinction: why you want to be IEP and not H1-B. IEP, you can hold yourself out as the CEO. Right? And here's the problem with people that are on H1Bs. you can't be the CEO
You can't be
because of the prevailing wage problem,
Understood.
right?
Understood.
You're not going to pay yourself $250,000
Right.
if you can get an H1-B where you can get paid $100 or something, right?
Understood.
But the problem is then you can't hold yourself out as a CEO because if you do, they're going to say you didn't file the right visa, your visa's being voided because you should have had the prevailing wage of a CEO if you're really the CEO, right? So it creates that problem. So with the IEP, you can be the CEO, CTO, COO. Then you can get lots of publicity for what you're doing.
Right.
And what we want to do, what we're looking at is a pathway towards a green card, right?
Okay.
So get the IEP so you can get the EB1 green card.
Oh,
And the EB1 with the short priority date of
Right.
10 months, right? So how do you get an EB1 is the next question. Well, it's based on about 8 different criteria, of which you need to hit 3. Not just hitting's enough. You actually have to really
Right.
be great at what you do. But it's really, think of it as like, I'm going to create a publicity campaign for me and my company. I'm going to be a thought leader in my space. Is it
Right.
AI? Is it whatever it is, right?
Right.
So you need to have major media or major trade magazines that are writing about you,
Right.
right? You need to win a national, international award. You need to be an elite, a member of an elite organization that has a threshold of requirements, right? You could, you need to do something original, right? Which
Right.
means you could have a patent, but merely a patent isn't enough. It
Yeah.
has to be into commerce. You could have a critical role. So you're
Right.
the CEO of a company and it does, makes a lot of money, right? That's critical role. You could have high salary. As a CEO of the company, made a lot of money. I made a lot of money. So
Gotcha.
there's all that, right? So what we do is through our platform, we go through and so here's the requirements. Here's sort of some things to do. So
Gotcha.
it's great when people come back a year later and they said, like, John, I did all this stuff. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember it, right?
Yeah.
It was so long ago, and they're like, oh yeah, I did everything you said, and bam, they're right.
Right.
So we've taken a lot of people.
So you
to the
track on
EB1.
your platform.
Well, our platform's really cool because instead of I'm just taking notes, it's a collaborative tool. So they have access to their own portal and
Gotcha.
it gives them their notes and they can follow that. So
Understood.
we do these same strategies for companies on H1Bs. Here's what you need to do. We do it for folks trying to go into visas and just even the individuals themselves.
Okay.
I'll have access in this portal and it's a great way for us to be transparent and
Awesome.
collaborate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a super cool conversation with John Velie, the man himself, with us. Thank you for taking your valuable time on a Sunday, that too in Bay Area in California.
Yep.
And you heard a lot of things about John. He deals with all the employees, businesses, whatnot. So he is the to-go person for any kind of query you get. He can help you. He has a very good, experienced team. And he is practicing for more than 30 years in United States, one of the notable immigration attorney in US. So he is approachable, his team is very friendly, and John, a small word to our audience, just tell them how you are different than others, and we're gonna close it.
Thanks, Robbie. What's really kind of cool, fun fact is not only have I been an immigration attorney for 30 years, my brother's an immigration attorney, but my great-great-grandfather was an immigration attorney over 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We're Ukrainian descent, right? So he was from Kiev, and he was an immigration attorney for what was called the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, HIAS, and he actually lobbied Congress for the passage of the INA, which is the way we do immigration today. Before they had that, he actually used to lobby congressmen to get personal bills for families to get visas. Imagine how hard that is. Now we got these lotteries with all these people. Anyway, his name was Abraham Rockmore. That was really cool. But I've been an immigration attorney for 30 years, and I've developed online visas, which is onlinevisas.com. If you want to go there and set up an appointment, check it out. We have information on visas. But we've also created a tool called visas.ai. And that's where we build visas. And that I'm out here not just as an immigration attorney to talk to these bright, great innovators, but I actually pitched in the startup competition yesterday.
It was very good.
Yeah, we've raised $1 million. We have built our 3rd generation. We're doing some really cool things with AI that makes lawyers smarter and faster. And it's fun to disrupt the profession. Thanks, Robbie. Anyway, you guys need any help, go to onlinevisas.com and set up a strategy session, or you can call me if that's okay. 405-310-4333. Christy will set up an appointment. We'd love to help you guys out if you have any questions.
Can our followers get any discount?
Oh, of course,
or
yeah. No, we
can
have
they
a
get any
Melody
free consultation?
Mocktail. Oh, it's free strategy session for Melody Mocktail
Okay.
viewers, and we have a discounted rate we're giving
For
you
us,
guys
okay.
as well. Yeah, we've been working with those.
Yeah.
A lot of you guys have come to us in the past. We've really appreciated that.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Okay, awesome. It's very nice talking to you. I
Thanks,
don't want
Ryan.
to take more time, and
No.
all the best.
Thanks,
Enjoy your
okay.
road trip.
Thanks, buddy. I will.
Let's see you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.